This is your AESH Weekly News Minute for Tuesday, February 14, 2023. Energy News. Vietnamese EV maker VinFast says job cuts won't derail plans to start U.S. production. Vietnamese electric vehicle maker VinFast told CNBC it's on track to start production in the U.S. by 2024, even though the company is cutting its headcount in North America. Vietnam's first domestic automaker previously announced plans to go public in the U.S. Just this week, VinFast, the automotive arm of Vietnam's biggest conglomerate Vingroup, announced it will be cutting jobs in the U.S. in a restructuring exercise that will consolidate its operations across the U.S. and Canada. The automaker has been ramping up its U.S. expansion to take on American automakers such as Tesla and announced it will be setting up a production plant in North Carolina to manufacture EVs. Le said the layoffs will not affect the planned timeline for production to commence at its first North American manufacturing plant. The next markets VinFast plans to target will be in Europe, namely Germany, France and the Netherlands, said the CEO. Logistics and transportation news. Bulgaria, Poland and Czechia, home to Europe's most hazardous roads for truck drivers, Snap finds. Analyzing data from the last 10 years, smart pay provider Snap has established a hazard rating for Europe's roads for truckers. The ranking was determined by comparing the average yearly fatal HGV collision rate to the country's total road network. The analysis places Bulgaria in the number 1 spot, with more fatal HGV collisions per year than Poland and Czechia combined. 40% of all fatal HGV collisions within the European Union occurred in rural areas, suggesting road safety infrastructure developments need to extend past motorways. The countries with the least dangerous roads for truckers include Denmark, Austria and Sweden. Aligning with Snap's findings, Sweden significantly advocates for road safety, implementing Vision Zero in 1997. The mission towards zero fatalities and serious injuries caused by road accidents has been backed by the UN, who have encouraged nations globally to commit to meeting the goal by 2050. For this goal to be met, there needs to be an integral improvement to road safety across Europe. Despite a 17% EU-wide decline in fatal accidents through the pandemic, figures have already begun to increase and are predicted to have risen by an additional 10% in 2022. Technology news. The boss of Google's search engine warned against the pitfalls of artificial intelligence in chatbots in a newspaper interview published on Saturday as Google parent company Alphabet battles to compete with blockbuster app chat. This kind of artificial intelligence we're talking about right now can sometimes lead to something we call hallucination, Prabhakar Raghavan, senior vice president at Google and head of Google Search, told Germany's Welt am Sonntag newspaper. This then expresses itself in such a way that a machine provides a convincing but completely made-up answer, Raghavan said in comments published in German. One of the fundamental tasks, he added, was keeping this to a minimum. Google has been on the back foot after OpenAI, a startup Microsoft is backing with around $10 billion, in November introduced Chat, which has since wowed users with its strikingly human-like responses to user queries. Alphabet Incorporated introduced Bard, its own chatbot, earlier this week, but the software shared inaccurate information in a promotional video in a gaffe that cost the company $100 billion in market value on Wednesday. Alphabet, which is still conducting user testing on Bard, has not yet indicated when the app could go public. Finance news. A Russian scheme to grant loan payment holidays to troops fighting in Ukraine and for banks to write off the entire debt if they are killed or maimed has added to growing pressure for the remaining overseas lenders in Russia to leave. Almost a year since Moscow launched what it calls a special military operation in Ukraine, a handful of European banks, including Austria's Raiffeisen Bank International and Italy's Unicredit, are still making money in Russia. Raiffeisen and Unicredit are both deeply embedded in the Russian financial system and are the only foreign banks on the central bank's list of 13 systemically important credit institutions, underscoring their importance to Russia's economy, which is grappling with sweeping Western sanctions. Banks restructured a total of 167,600 loans for military personnel or their family members, worth more than €800 million, between September 21 and the end of last year, Russian central bank data shows. Global news headlines. A U.S. fighter jet shot down an unidentified object over Lake Huron on Sunday on orders from President Joe Biden. It was the fourth such downing in 8 days and the latest military strike in an extraordinary chain of events over U.S. airspace that Pentagon officials believe has no peacetime precedent. Part of the reason for the repeated shootdowns is a heightened alert following a spy balloon from China that emerged over U.S. airspace in late January, Gen. Glenn Van Herk, head of NORAD and U.S. Northern Command, said in a briefing with reporters. Since then, fighter jets last week also shot down objects over Canada and Alaska. Pentagon officials said they posed no security threats, but so little was known about them that Pentagon officials were ruling nothing out, not even UFOs. We have been more closely scrutinizing our airspace at these altitudes, including enhancing our radar, which may at least partly explain the increase, said Melissa Dalton, Assistant Defense Secretary for Homeland Defense. This has been your AESH Weekly News Minute for Tuesday, February 14, 2023. If you want more global energy news and real-time alerts, hit the subscribe button now and follow us on social media.